This is one of the most important releases of this year, and I've had the whale of the time testing this model. And what is the model? It's of course DeepSeek V4. We had a long time to wait for this release. So if I look at the Wikipedia page to remind myself how long that was, they had the groundbreaking DeepSeek V3 in December 2024, if you remember that far. Then they had a really important, this was, I think, this was the release that really took the world by storm, was the DeepSeek R1. That was in January 2024. I think they had the full release. 2025 rather, they had the full release. And then the latest big release they had was in December 2025. So even their latest release, which was 3.2, was a number of months ago. And we had multiple models from many different labs. And if you think back what kind of models were around back in 2024, late 2024, early 25, we didn't really have ZAI with the GLM models particularly prominently in the field. Kimi K 2.5, I think, was just sort of about being released. The competition was much less strong in the kind of Chinese ecosystem. Those maybe QEM models were quite strong, but beyond that, not so much. So it would be really interesting for us to explore whether DeepSeek really kept up with everyone else while they're holding back some of their releases. Did they exceed everyone? Are they going to be better than Opus? All of those things that we want to explore. And what's really important for me is that I don't just look at the benchmarks, I don't just look even at the arena score, but I really test the models myself. And that's what I want to show you as well today, is some of the tests that I have been doing. Now, just to give you a bit of a background to how I do these tests, is quite often I would go in the arena, I would have these prompts here, some of them are short, some of them are long, but then what I get is these kind of one-off generations, and I can look at the code. They're quite often just HTML pages, and then I can see the generation. The reason why I do that and not go through long code bases and so on is that way we can do a lot of tests. We can compare many different models or many different prompts, and that way we get a good feel for how we get these generations. So let's get into it, shall we? So the first look at DeepSeek model. So the model we're going to be looking at the most today is the DeepSeek V4 Pro thinking model, just to give it the best chance against others. And yeah, so the first generation. And this to me looks like quite a nice generation. We want to see the balloons here, and this is Cappadocia in Turkey. These are kind of natural stones. But let's see how it compares to some of the others. So we have GPT-5.4 High here, which looks like more pleasant to me. But yeah, versus this one, I would say the sun is quite dramatic. The shapes are good, so it's certainly a good generation. And this one is GLM 5.1, so I would say GLM is the one to look out for in terms of the competition, because GLM's been 5.1. I think that's at least before the DeepSeek release. This was the highest ranking model. I actually don't know where DeepSeek is going to rank, so let's see if we can gauge that together. And now this is Opus 4.7. So I would say Opus, for me, wins here just of the whole vibe and kind of the quality. That feels really, really spot on to me. That looks really good. So this is Muse Spark by Meta. You can see this is the weakest generation, unfortunately, here. And we've got one more GLM, which is a couple more GLM, so not quite as strong there. So now let's take a look at the next one here. So we've got the voxel generation of a Roman city here. So this is the DeepSeek V4, which is pretty good. Then what I want you to see is the DeepSeek 3.2. Now, when you see these two side by side, in terms of the quality of the generations that we have here, it's pretty crazy. So we have the DeepSeek V4, and we can argue, is it quite as good as Opus? But certainly versus itself, a mere, how many months ago would that be? About 4 months, maybe 5 months. This is quite a dramatic difference here for sure. So this is definitely exciting to see such nice progress from the team. Now, whether it matches up to some of the others, such as, for example, in here we've got Gemini 3.1, it doesn't. So Gemini in particular is particularly good at these kinds of generations. We have also GPT-5.4 High here, which is really quite a nice generation here. We've got some issues here, but it is really, really beautiful generation. And then Opus here, 4.7 as well, really good. So I think that's a good example of, it is very exciting to see these kinds of models progressing so much, but we are not at the point where we get such a high quality generation that it is really up to that point. I want to show you a couple more. So this is my favorite Golden Gate Bridge generation. And this one did not do well. So we like the traffic is kind of crazy. The river, the bay doesn't really work. So that's not the best generation. And this is another example of I don't really understand what's going wrong here. I think some of the sizing is going wrong somewhere. So that's quite weird. I haven't seen quite that kind of generation. Although the slight silver lining here is the fact that it's kind of weirded out in a very strange way, makes me wonder, it's like maybe it has like some advantages, especially being open source as well, that we maybe get this a bit more diversity. But even so, like this was 3.2, which was basically just kind of laughably bad as well. But it is a hard prompt. So if you look at Opus 4.7, clearly a little bit something wrong with the bridge in here as well. Gemini 3.1, the bridge is a lot more coherent, but it's not very interesting. So it certainly is a hard prompt, and I wouldn't want to say that, DeepSeek did terribly here, but I would say it's not quite as good as some of the others. So let me show you a few more. This one I did like, and you see what I mean about the diversity. I mean, hopefully you will see is that if you look at the fish, I mean, it's not the most interesting, not the highest quality fish here, but if you look at Opus, like it is different from Opus. I wouldn't say it's better, but it is different. So I do wonder whether this kind of development in a different direction could give us a little bit more kind of diversity, which could be interesting. So one competitor here, so this is Minimax M2.5, so this is not quite the latest one, but I did like this generation. That was a nice one, so I would say it is better than that. But Gemini here, very rich world, very interesting, so I would say that to me kind of wins that round here. Let's look at some SVGs as well. There were kind of some interesting ones, and I would say DeepSeek seems to be a lot better than it used to be, and certainly better than some of the open source models. So we've got Minimax M2.7 here, which I would say is a bit worse. GLM 5.1, I would say, is better to my eye or similar, and I would say this one is to watch to see how closely you find them together. And I would say the GLM seems really good to me in that kind of category. If you look at Muse Spark by Meta, I would say it is worse. But if you look at Gemini, no, I think they're slightly benchmarked on SVG, so I don't want to like say, oh, it's the best model because of it. It is kind of a loose test at the end of the day, so I wouldn't say that's like the way to judge this. But nevertheless, I do like the cycling one because it does kind of give this movement that requires a structure. If you look at the DeepSeek 3.2, the previous model, I mean, this doesn't even compute what this is meant to be. Then we have the Gemini 3.1, here GLM, again, I think it is a bit better. Muse, not as good, GLM, better as well. So yeah, Minimax as well. Feels like Minimax, like so far, it feels like maybe GLM is like a little bit better than DeepSeek is probably the next one. Maybe so then it's like Minimax, then Muse sort of around that area. That kind of, to me, that feels sort of about right. But obviously test it yourself as well on your prompts. This one actually I do really like. Like this is the pyramids, the voxel pyramids. You know, want the complexity here, the structure, the beauty. So that is a nice generation. But you see, Kimi K2.5 thinking, so that's not even quite the latest model, also had some generation, although I would say the DeepSeek one was better. This DeepSeek generation, I think, is like a little bit off for me. Like it's a bit jarring, and I know it's golden hour and so on, but like, yeah, things not quite hanging together. So that's one thing I noticed as well, is that I think it applies to many kind of slightly second-tier models, is that the ability to maintain consistency is not quite there. Now, definitely a few generations that I just haven't selected because it will be a little bit even weird to look at when it doesn't kind of compile or come together. And so we've got Claude Opus 4.7 here. It certainly feels like much higher quality to me, although some kind of spatial issues here for sure. So some room for improvement, but again, if you compare versus DeepSeek 3.2, 4-5 months ago, and this is crazy what the jump is. So, but Muse Spark, not so great, I would say. So, yeah, it's certainly kind of an interesting comparison, and certainly the fact that it comes ahead of Muse, I think is interesting to me. I want to show you this one because I mentioned that I didn't keep all of the ones that are kind of badly generated. And this is a good example of like just a bad generation. Now, I'll show you what it's meant to be, but you can kind of see the columns there. So yeah, it didn't come together, although like the other things are nice, but it did not come together as a good generation. Versus, not that this is the best, but it's Gemini 3 Pro, but certainly this is the kind of structure you expect. And so this is Sonnet. Some of the colors you can quibble with, but you know, there's certainly much better generations out there. And yes, you can see GLM 5.1, it did come together much better. So I would say stability is certainly something to look out for with these models from what I can see. SVGs, this is quite a nice test because it requires movement and kind of coordination. But yeah, I would say here, although Gemini kind of, again, a little bit benchmarks on this, and I think everyone is probably right now, but it's certainly, maybe except Muse, but others seem to be really like catching up to this. And this again, DeepSeek V3.2, nowhere near where it really should be in terms of the quality. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. So let's keep moving. Maybe what I want to show you is a few other, actually I do like showing this one. So maybe let's have a look at this. So this is the Acropolis. I do like it because it really tests nicely on the structure. And one thing that is quite annoying here is that I can actually like zoom out, which I do not like. But yeah, you can see here if you catch there's certain elements there, there's certain structural issues there for sure. And the fact that it didn't give me like a free control as well as not a good generation. So it's certainly quite a lot of issues in that one. In here, GPT-5.4 High, much nicer construction, maybe a little bit boring, but quite nice. GLM 5.1, I would say closer to DeepSeek in terms of that kind of generation, not quite put together. Opus is like a little bit odd here, to be honest, like obviously the weird elements here, but overall construction, you'll have to agree, it is nicer there. And Gemini is like a little bit boring, but you know, it is a decent generation. So we looked at SVGs, we look at the 3D generations, and I do really like those tests because it's much more interesting to look at them But I also want to show you some of these kinds of prompts, which is a little bit out of distribution almost, kind of UI generations, which I want to try it with you guys. So see what you think. This one is Orbital Travel Booking Console. So I haven't actually looked for all of them. So let's look together, because that's quite interesting. So this is the DeepSeek generation. Now let's see. So this is GLM 5.1, which I think is interesting, this kind of take to have this kind of nice element up front. I do like that. Muse Spark, I mean, not too bad. It's like a little bit tight and confused, maybe things not quite aligned. Opus 4.7, I do like it does feel much more organized straight away. I do like this, although maybe even GLM has maybe a nice idea, but this is good. This is good. I do like that. Interesting take. What's happened there? So this is the Gemini 3.1. Interesting. I must say I do not understand the creative intent there, but let's keep going with the others. So yeah, this is 1907 World's Fair exhibition site. So again, trying to do something that's like a little bit testing its creativity, not just kind of a to-do app, but something a little bit different. I would say this feels quite boring to me. It's like an okay website, and it's like, it's fine, I guess. I mean, we've got the fair. Oh, that's good, actually. I do like that. That is nice. I wonder how I did this picture. Yeah, so that's at least functional. So let's see, JLM. Kind of feels worse to me, like very heavy lines, kind of the structure is like a little bit heavy, the foreground map not quite as good. So I would say DeepSeek is better here. Muse Spark, yeah, I like these kinds of ability to add, maybe not too bad. They all feel kind of a little bit too modern to me, almost like a little bit too polished. I don't know. I was expecting like, oh, a little bit more like that. So yeah, so I would say Opus 4.7, I think, got the intent a bit more of what we're trying to do here. So, you know, the font selection is nicer. This kind of, I don't know, that feels old to me. So this is nice. So yeah, I would say Opus is the top here. But I would say DeepSeek is like up there. Gemini, I don't know, that's a bit boring. I mean, it's not a bad website, but I do find it a bit boring. Maybe, yeah, but I would say like the way I would rank them, I don't know if you would agree with this, is that I would say the Opus is best. Yeah, maybe DeepSeek is maybe even next. And then Gemini was okay. Yeah, maybe JLM and then Muse. That's kind of, I would give it that. Revenue Recovery Command Center. So yeah, let's see what we've got here. A bunch of different charts. That kind of feels like a little bit superficial to me. I don't know, things not aligned, things kind of bright colors. So let's see. Yeah, that feels like Muse. To me, that feels like more like a dashboard of someone who's like managing revenue and so on. So that feels like much more of a real dashboard. GLM feels maybe not quite as nice. So Muse, I would give it to Muse here. Gemini, not bad. I would say it looks quite functional. A little bit bare bones, but I think that's not too bad. And I've got Opus 4.6, which is kind of bad. Looks a little bit like DeepSeek. Yeah, don't love these generations, to be honest. Maybe even like Spark did best here, I would say. So DeepSeek research dashboard. So let's see. Font is very tiny, like things sort of like not quite together. Don't completely love that. GLM 5.1. Yeah, I think it tried there. I think the ambition was there, but yeah, it's kind of, again, quite bitty, but maybe like a touch better. I don't know if you agree with that. Opus here. Yeah, I wish things were like, I don't know why everyone has like big gaps. Maybe it is a little bit out of distribution, but that feels a bit nicer, that it has this kind of, the vibe is more, I think, aligned to this kind of, yeah, research center. You almost imagine yourself being in a submarine or something. Yeah, and Gemini, I don't know, like I don't like this. I don't know, it's kind of empty, like things are a bit weird. Interesting. I would have expected that I would have liked Gemini more than am right now. So I don't know. So the next one is Retro-futurist home automation OS. Interesting. So this is a kind of, yeah, we want these retro elements like the little radio here, like all the different things like this. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly kind of went in the more creative way. Yeah, I would say Opus does feel nicer here in terms of, oh yeah, this kind of almost feels tactile. That is a lot better. So yeah, that does feel nice to me. Okay, interesting. I kind of like the Gemini's idea. Also feels kind of tactile, even more tactile. That is more creative, I would say. You can see like before, between the first and the second, like they were more similar. So this maybe should go to Gemini. You know, this is really, yeah. You know what? I'll like this. This is deserves some props here for this. This is nice. Yeah. So I would say Gemini, then Opus, then DeepSeek here in my mind. Yeah. What else would be interesting here? So yeah, vertical farm. Yeah, so we've got like feels a bit like a game here. I would say game kind of environment, which I don't mind. This is nice. This is good. Let's see, GLM, kind of similar vibe, I would say. Feels quite similar. Maybe like a little bit nicer. Like these toggles a little bit better, I think. Yeah, I think it functionally feels like nicer that I can kind of navigate, although these buttons here I think are a really nice touch. So in terms of the kind of vibe I'm picking up from this is that it could really be between like GLM and DeepSeek. I think they're quite close. I don't know how you feel about this, if they're close. Like, is this a good thing, bad thing? Because DeepSeek was really, really ahead when among the labs in China and open source labs. It was really, I mean, what NVIDIA share price would drop like 20% or something like that. So the fact that it is right now sort of similar to existing open source models, it would be interesting to see, first of all, where the arena score lands. I genuinely don't know. And how they gonna iterate, because if they're gonna release another model in 6 months time and 8 months time, then it wouldn't feel really in line with a lot of other open source in Chinese labs, how quickly they're releasing. I mean, Quen is releasing so many models, I can't even follow. But if they gonna get into this cadence of releasing them much quicker, then maybe they're going to keep up and even outpace the others as well. So yeah, I think that is what would be interesting to me, because right now I don't think there are pretty much any generations that I have looked at here with you guys today is that where I would say, oh yes, DeepSeek is like way better than Opus, or way better than pretty much like any current model. It is maybe like on par with GLM, I would say. That is kind of my feel. It is certainly not quite as stable as some of the leading models. It's not quite as creative, but it certainly is a massive leap versus DeepSeek V3.2, massive leap. So it's clearly must be a new pre-train, new post-train, new many things. But in terms of the matching up quite to the current leaders, I would say they broadly caught up versus being like really quite far behind. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're gonna do next. And I would definitely say the thing that I want to do anytime the model comes out is I really recommend to you is do try these models. Don't just look at the benchmarks. Don't just look at the scores. Don't even just look at what I'm doing. Also try these things yourself, and you will find some things that maybe you'll disagree with me. But hopefully this gives you a bit of a start, a bit of a feel for where these models are. But definitely keep trying these out. Go on the arena. It's a nice place to try these models. And I'll see you guys in the next one.